In a dramatic turn of events, a federal judge has ordered the release on bond of hundreds of individuals caught in the crossfire of an immigration operation, sparking both relief and controversy. But are these releases a victory for justice or a potential threat to national security? The background. In a story that's gripped the Chicago area, hundreds of people were detained as part of Operation Midway Blitz, an immigration enforcement campaign. This operation has left the community divided, with many questioning the tactics employed by federal agents. The court's decision. U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Cummings has ordered the release of those detainees who do not pose a significant risk and are not subject to mandatory detention. The ruling, which applies to a specific category of detainees, has set a deadline for their release on bond by noon on November the 21st. The legal battle. Attorneys from the National Immigrant Justice Center argue that federal immigration agents violated a consent decree in Illinois and neighboring states. This decree restricts warrantless arrests during civil immigration enforcement. In a previous ruling, Judge Cummings agreed that agents had violated the 2022 Castañon Nava settlement, which outlines the conditions for warrantless arrests in Chicago. The consent decree. The consent decree mandates that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, must meet specific criteria before making warrantless arrests in Chicago. These include establishing probable cause of illegal presence and assessing flight risk. However, Mark Fleming from the National Immigrant Justice Center claims that ICE has flouted these rules in hundreds of cases, including a recent arrest at a Chicago daycare. The shocking numbers. Fleming's team has identified over 3,000 arrests that potentially violate the consent decree, with the list continuing to grow. They argue that ICE and Border Patrol have provided lists totaling over 5,000 names, but these lists may contain duplicates and do not include arrests from the last month. The government's defense. Attorneys for the Department of Homeland Security counter that federal courts lack the authority to grant parole to large groups of immigrants in ICE custody. They assert that this power rests solely with the Secretary of Homeland Security, as per Congress. The human impact. Fleming highlights the human cost, stating that many detainees have never faced law enforcement or detention before, making their situation particularly distressing. He warns that without immediate action, there may be no one left to seek justice for potential violations. The ongoing saga. As the legal battle continues, the fate of these detainees hangs in the balance. The controversy surrounding immigration enforcement and the interpretation of consent decrees remains a hotly debated topic. And this is the part most people miss. How do we balance national security with individual rights? Are these releases a triumph for justice or a potential loophole for those who may pose a risk? Share your thoughts below, but remember to keep the discussion respectful and insightful.